Hello and welcome back to Winding Road Magazine. I'm Tedward and this is my personal E39 M5. You may have seen this car on the channel in the past, but it's springtime and I'm bringing it out for the first time, so I wanted to just take you along for the first drive. The car has about 79,000 miles on it right now. I am the second owner of this car, and so far it's been very good to me. I've had only very minor issues where I had a clutch go bad, but it was very odd. One of the springs broke, so it wouldn't disengage. Had that replaced. And that's about it. I did valve cover gaskets and, just regular maintenance keeps these cars alive. The number one thing is just keep driving them. Tires are probably next. I'm going to call Tire Rack very soon because especially on these rears, I am getting close to these wear bars and, we want to have good rear traction. Although it's fun to drift this car and make it get a little sideways, I don't want it to happen unexpectedly, especially on wet roads. This one is carbon black. And it's been maintained by Wild Motorsport and of course by many parts from FCP Euro. So let's get in. It's kind of crazy times right now. And this is my form of isolation. Dirty, please forgive me. Kind of put it away dirty at the beginning of the year before the winter. And I'm paying the price for it now. But inside it's got extended leather. So all of the interior, pretty much everywhere you can touch, including the dashboard, is leather, and you've got this lovely Alcantara roof. I do my best to keep the leather in good shape. I just use a conditioner, and word to the wise, if you're giving your car to service people over the next couple of months because of the virus, people are going to be using isopropyl alcohol quite a bit. So make sure that you're taking care of your leather, whether it's your shifters or steering wheels, whatever. Put some conditioner on it after it's been cleaned or serviced, because you may end up with lots of dry, cracking leather just due to fear of spread. Lots of torque from this 4.94 liter naturally aspirated V8. Another thing that's probably going to go wrong with it is Vanos. Such is life. And as you can see, even though California is on lockdown, we are still alive and kicking here in Massachusetts, for better or worse. Let's jump out here. We'll be nice and fine. Lots of police presence out here. It's something I've noticed over the past couple of days. And they're not out here to pull you over. I think they're just kind of keeping an eye out and making sure the world keeps on turning. But just don't test them. They don't want to meet you. They don't want you coughing on them. Be respectful. But back to the M5, that's what really matters. I think it's probably the most usable, practical car that I own. I've got the old 911, the Outlaw. I've got the E39 M3. And I've got this. And frankly, this is the best street car out of all of them. The E92 is fantastic, but it lacks a lot of comfort. It's very stiff, and this car soaks up bumps really nicely. And it's a manual. I actually prefer driving a manual over DCT. A big surprise there. But frankly, I have more control over it. You're not trying to predict what it's about to do. You just do it. But because I've been driving DCT so long in my daily life, I think I've lost a little bit of my touch. So if you're like me, you've got to keep a manual car in the fleet and drive it as often as possible. One thing you'll notice about the E39 is that the throttle is not the most responsive thing in the world when it's not in sport mode. To put it, it's actually easier to rev match it in sport mode because that initial bite on the pedal is going to give you a lot more of a blip than if it's not in sport mode. So I've got to dig for it. And you'll find, I find myself kind of missing my rev matches a little bit. It's still a big, heavy dual mass flywheel, so you've got to give it a little bit of a bite. because of that dual mass flywheel, it's such an easy car to drive. You've got all this torque low down, which you don't get in the E92. And the bite, even on the stock clutch, it's so tactile. There's some things about this car that I think have been really missed on newer vehicles, especially in newer manual vehicles. This is such a joy to drive. Pop on these parking lights, but the parking lights are going to put on the angel eyes, and if I knock this on, I got the fogs. I just hit the windscreen with Rain-X because these windshield wipers are horrendous. I embarrassingly have never replaced them, and that's coming up next. Got to make a call to FCP Euro because they're bad. That's pretty bad. But what's cool about these wipers is you've got the cammed hinge on the passenger side, so you can watch it kind of bounce up and down as it goes. That's fun. I like that. Kind of harkens back to what I love about old Mercedes, the mono wiper, because that does the hop. I like the hop. Another thing that I love about the M5 is that you don't need the top end of the rev range. Not that you wouldn't use it. You can use it. It pulls to redline really nicely. But there's so much torque in this middle ground between 3,000 and 5,000 RPM that you don't need to overclock this engine almost ever. You can really just waft along. And I think that's part of the reason why it gets reasonable fuel economy, especially on the highway. It's geared really nicely. Managed to be well under 3,000 RPM at legal highway speeds, and if you're going at illegal highway speeds, it does not require 4,000 or 5,000 RPM for triple digit speeds. Not that I'm advising you do that. The brakes are 2001. We're not going to brake check him here because that guy will probably piss his pants. The schools are closed for the virus right now, so that is a little bizarre. Those of you who are at home with your children all day, you are the true heroes. But if you think that we don't know what we're missing, like, oh, you're so lucky you don't have kids. No, we know. We know. But I hope you guys are staying sane. Keep your children fed, healthy, and hopefully not too bored. Yeah, see that's where we'll put it in sport mode, because then when I go for those downshifts, you give it a little blip, much better, right? You just give that tiny bit, and it just feels more natural in sport mode because of that. Gearing's nice and long. Yeah, see, the braking on this car, they work, but they're a little frightening. They're fine from reasonable speeds. If you're going 80 miles an hour and need to bring it down in a hurry, great. But please, if you're buying one of these on a budget and you're just looking for the fastest way to do 170 miles an hour for like 15 grand, this will do that. However, you need to be very aware that these brakes are not really designed to bring you back down from 170. Maybe they were in 2001, but today, yeah, I'm not gonna engage ABS. It'll stop. Individual throttle bodies on this car just make it a joy to use the throttle. Everything's so instant and immediate, and that's, again, something that's very much missing in most new cars today, because everything either is so electronically controlled, or like Honda Civic SIs, oh my goodness, the rev hang between gears is so unnerving and brutal. Everything requires a tune just to be drivable at this point, and this car's not tuned. This car is completely stock, and that's the beauty of kind of finding these good old classics, which feels weird that this is a classic at this point. 2001 doesn't feel that long ago to me, but I suppose it is. I think the biggest misconception about the E39 M5 is that it's perfect. It is not perfect, and that's what makes it great. The steering is a recirculating ball system. That's what you normally find in like a pickup truck, because they couldn't fit a standard, rack and pinion with this V8. The packaging is too tight. So, it does have, the steering's fine. It's certainly better than e-pass systems that I really dislike. Although e-pass systems are getting better, so we're going to give that a pass. But, I think because the car has such mystique and lore and heritage, people just think it's more than it is. And you can definitely see that reflected in the prices. I bought this car for under $20,000. I was the second owner. It had 62,000 miles on it, and it was in essentially perfect condition. Cars with those mileage now are going for well over $40,000. And if you've got a really good, like 20,000 mile example, you might have to pay like $100,000 for one of these. I think that's insane. So, if you have the money and you love this car and it's not going to ruin your life spending that money, then by all means, go get the E39 of your dreams. But if you're someone who just waited a little too long and you kind of can't find the one you want, and you're going to spend double or triple what you originally intended to buy 5-6 years ago, maybe it's just time to look for a different car. I wouldn't ruin my life for this car. It's not, I wouldn't really ruin my life for any car. The suspension has held up phenomenally well in this car, except for what I think are, you can hear a little knock over the washboards. Ready? Pretty sure it's just the rear sway bar end link bushings, and that's fine. It's funny because some cars, end links are very easy to replace. From what I've been told, I haven't really dug into this myself, so feel free to sound off in the comments if you disagree, but I've been told that this requires quite a little bit of work to get to these end links. So I just haven't done it yet, but that's something that is really beautiful about these old BMWs, is that other than some little leaks and creaks and things like that, they hold up really nicely, especially if you take care of them, and especially if you drive them. If you're gonna go look at one of these cars and someone's telling you it's been sitting for 10 years, like, good luck, man. You're probably in for a huge bill when you find out that literally everything on the car is rusted and leaking. You gotta keep them moving. This car actually has less creaks and squeaks than my 2010 M3. So if you're looking to see the difference between what BMW used to be and what BMW became, I'll take the 2000 era any day. So that's the M5 update. I'll do a silent POV because I'm sure there's going to be lots of angry comments that gasp, he spoke. But you know, it's hard to explain where the car's been, how it's changed over the years, and what's good and bad about it if you just stay silent. So we will do a silent cruise in this car pretty soon. For the time being, do your best to practice social distancing, and I hope that, you know, my solitary and Chris's solitary POV drives help give you something to do throughout the day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget, hit that subscribe button and the like button and then the bell. Yeah, you gotta hit the bell. See you soon. Bye-bye.